Hey, pizza girl. Are you deaf or just stupid? Layla stopped in the middle of the long, shiny hallway. Her arms ached from carrying the heavy thermal bag full of pizzas on her back. The man in the gray suit was tapping his foot impatiently and pointing at the big conference room door. He looked angry, like he might explode at any second. The food was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. Can't you people even deliver pizza on time? He yelled again. Layla felt her face turn red. She was 28 years old and had heard plenty of rude things in her life, but something about that day felt different. The air on the 47th floor of Harrison and Dracott's office was electric. People were running through the hallways, papers fluttering like birds in the wind. Phones rang non-stop, and someone was shouting so loudly that she could hear it down the hall. "I'm sorry, sir. The service elevator is broken," Layla said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I don't care," he snapped. "Leave it there and disappear." Layla, a dark-skinned black woman, took a deep breath. She pushed down her nerves and stepped forward. Her long braids swung behind her as she lowered her head and opened the heavy door to the conference room. Inside, she saw chaos. A huge table sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by panicked executives. Papers were scattered everywhere, some even on the floor. A large screen on the wall showed red graphs that blinked and flashed like alarms. At the center of it all, a blonde woman in sharp high heels was screaming into a phone. "I don't care if the translator is in the hospital," the woman shouted. "The call with Dubai is in 15 minutes. If we lose this contract, we lose everything." Layla recognized the woman immediately. It was Marceline Dracott, one of the founders of the company. Her face had been on every business magazine Layla had ever seen while waiting for deliveries on newsstands. She was the kind of woman people took very seriously, the kind that everyone wanted to impress. "Excuse me," Layla said softly, setting the pizzas down on a side table. Nobody looked at her. It was like she was invisible. "Does anyone here speak Arabic?" Marceline asked, sounding desperate. There was silence. Not even a whisper. "Silence," someone yelled. "Sheikh Farid Al-Mahdi only talks in Arabic. You know we've spent 8 months building this deal." The phone rang. A young executive looking pale said, "It's him." Marceline closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, Layla saw something strange. Fear. Real fear. The phone rang again. Layla thought she should leave. This wasn't her problem. She was just the pizza girl. She delivered food to pay her overdue rent. But her hands froze. She realized she understood the words the nervous executives were trying to read from the papers. They were saying the Arabic greeting completely wrong. Layla closed her eyes and saw her grandmother Samira's face. She remembered the smell of cardamom in her kitchen and her grandmother's soft voice correcting her pronunciation when she was 7. "Ya Habibi," her grandmother used to say. "Arabic is music. You don't speak it, you sing it." Her grandmother had come from Morocco when she was 19 and had raised 6 children speaking Arabic at home. She had taught Layla the language since she was a baby, while her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the family going. Layla opened her eyes. The phone was still ringing. Marceline Dracott stared at it like it might explode at any second. Without thinking, Layla stepped forward. "I speak Arabic." Every head in the room turned toward her. The silence that followed was the heaviest Layla had ever felt. Marceline looked her up and down. The thermal bag, the red pizza uniform, the long braids, the dark skin. She couldn't believe it. "The pizza delivery girl?" "My grandmother was Moroccan," Layla said firmly. "I learned Arabic before I learned English." The phone rang again for the 5th time. Marceline hesitated. She looked at the executives around her. They all looked confused and lost. "This is ridiculous," muttered one of them. "We're going to let a pizza girl negotiate with an Arab billionaire." Layla felt her blood start to boil, but she stayed calm. Her grandmother always said, "Whoever shouts has already lost the battle. Whoever speaks softly controls the room." "I won't negotiate," Layla said. "I'll just translate. You negotiate. I just give voice to your words." Marceline studied Layla's face for a long moment. "What's your name?" she asked. "Layla. Layla Safar." An executive frowned. "That doesn't sound like an Arabic name." "My mother is American," Layla explained. "My father is African American. My grandmother was Moroccan. I'm what happens when 3 worlds meet." Marceline nodded slowly. "You have 40 minutes to show me you know what you're doing. Any hesitation or mistake and you're out." Layla swallowed hard but stayed upright. "Understood." The next 40 minutes were the most intense of her life. Marceline put her in a smaller room with 2 legal advisors. They threw papers full of technical words at her, Contract clauses, profit numbers, deadlines, penalties. Can you translate this? One of the lawyers asked, looking skeptical. Some of the words were complicated, but Layla had something no one else had. 20 years of listening to her grandmother translate business contracts for Moroccan merchants in Detroit. Her grandmother wasn't just loving. She was also a sharp, clever businesswoman who had run a spice import business for decades. She had taught Layla not only the Arabic language, but also the art of negotiating and reading people. The client will start with light conversation, Layla said, studying the papers. He'll ask about family, health, and the weather. It's not a waste of time. It's building trust. The lawyers raised their eyebrows. How do you know that? One asked. My grandmother did this her whole life, Layla said. She pointed at a clause in the contract. This part here is going to be a problem. You're asking for payment in 60 days. In the Gulf, the standard is 90. They'll find it disrespectful. Marceline, who had entered silently, stopped behind Layla. How do you know about payment terms in the Gulf? She asked. My grandmother died 2 years ago, Layla said, her voice faltering slightly. She left an import business that I tried to run. I couldn't. I lost everything. That's why I'm delivering pizza. The room went quiet again. This time it wasn't judgment, it was understanding. Marceline pulled up a chair and sat next to Layla. Tell me more about this clause, she said. In the next 20 minutes, Layla explained cultural nuances that no MBA class would teach. She explained the value of starting meetings with personal questions, the importance of never interrupting, and the weight of a verbal promise in Arab culture. The executives took notes as fast as they could. Why have you never worked professionally with clients like this? One asked. Layla shrugged, but her eyes told the story. She had tried. She had sent resumes to dozens of companies. Nobody hired her because she didn't have a university degree. But you speak 3 languages fluently, Marceline said softly. Layla touched her red pizza uniform. Without the paper, I'm invisible, she said. The phone rang. It was the call from Dubai. Layla looked at Marceline. Ready? Marceline asked. Layla thought of her grandmother. She remembered the kitchen, smelling of cardamom, and the nights she spent studying Arabic while other children watched television. She remembered the years of invisible struggle, the times she had been overlooked, and the long road that had brought her here. I was born ready, she answered. She picked up the phone with steady hands. All eyes were on her, the dark-skinned pizza delivery woman with long braids, holding the fate of a $100 million contract in her hands. Assalamu alaikum, she said clearly. This is Harrison and Draycott. With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking? The voice on the other end responded in fast, formal Arabic with a heavy Gulf accent. It was an assistant to Sheikh Farid al-Mahdi, checking if someone was available for the meeting. Layla replied without hesitation. Her Arabic flowed naturally, with all the respect and tone her grandmother had taught her over 20 years. No one in the room understood the words, but everyone noticed one thing. The pizza girl knew exactly what she was doing. Marceline Draycott watched with her arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Layla's confidence was undeniable. The call lasted 3 minutes. When Layla hung up, the room was silent again. The sheik will call in 40 minutes, she translated. His assistant said he's finishing another meeting and asked if we could have an adequate representative ready. And what did you answer? Marceline asked tensely. That yes, we'll be ready, Layla said firmly. The executives looked shocked. This is insane, one muttered. We're going to put a pizza delivery girl to negotiate with an Arab billionaire? Layla felt her blood boil but kept her voice calm. Her grandmother always said, whoever shouts has already lost. Whoever speaks softly controls the room. I won't negotiate, she said again. I'll just translate. You negotiate. I just give voice to your words. Marceline looked at her closely. What's your name again? Layla Safar, she said. The room seemed to hold its breath. Marceline nodded. You have 40 minutes to prove yourself. Any hesitation or mistake and you're out. Layla took a deep breath. Understood. The next 40 minutes were the most intense of her life. Marceline put her in a small room with 2 legal advisors. They threw papers full of legal words in front of her. Contracts, profit margins, delivery deadlines, and penalties. Can you translate this? One asked skeptically. Layla looked at the words carefully. Some were new, but she had something no one else did. 20 years of learning from her grandmother. Samira Safar had taught her not just the language, but also the culture of business, especially Arab business. Layla could feel her grandmother's lessons guiding her hands and voice. Sheikh Farid al-Mahdi's voice came through the speakerphone. It was deep and strong, like the voice of someone very important. Everyone in the room stopped talking. The voice was calm, serious, and filled with authority. Layla knew exactly what he would say first. He began asking about Marceline's health, about her family, and even about the weather in New York. Layla carefully repeated every word for Marceline. She made sure to speak slowly and politely, just the way the situation needed. Marceline answered calmly, kindly, and without rushing. She followed every instruction that Layla had given her minutes before. The people sitting around the table barely breathed. 15 minutes passed, and they only spoke about simple, small things. Some of the executives in the room started to get impatient. They wanted the meeting to move faster. But Layla knew this part was very important. In Arab culture, people do not do business with strangers. They do business with people they trust. Trust must come first before any money or contract. Finally, Sheikh changed his tone. He spoke in Arabic, and his voice was more serious. Now about the contract, he said. I have some concerns. Layla translated carefully. Marceline nodded, signaling to the company lawyer to be ready. What followed was like a very careful dance. Sheikh asked questions about rules, deadlines, and guarantees. Marceline answered each one, and Layla translated. But she did more than just translate words. She explained what Marceline meant. She made hard words sound gentle, and she added respect where English words were too direct. She helped Marceline speak in a way that made Sheikh feel respected and safe. Then came the part about payment deadlines. 60 days is not acceptable, Sheikh said, his voice cold and serious. It sounds like you don't trust me to keep my word. Layla translated slowly. Marceline turned pale. We can adjust to 90 days, she said quickly, trying to fix the problem. Layla was about to translate when Sheikh spoke again. Who is this translator? Her voice is familiar to me. Layla felt her heart stop. Marceline looked at her, confused. He wants to know who you are, Marceline whispered. Layla took a deep breath. My name is Layla Safar, she said in Arabic. I am just a temporary helper. I am here to help translate. There was complete silence on the other end of the line. Sheikh repeated slowly, Safar. Is your family from Detroit? Layla felt her blood go cold. Yes, sir, she whispered. Are you the granddaughter of Samira Alfars? The entire room seemed to shrink. Everyone stared at Layla without understanding what was happening. Marceline frowned. Yes, Layla answered, her voice almost a whisper. She was my grandmother. Sheikh let out a long sigh. Samira Alfars saved my family 40 years ago. The room became completely silent. Layla felt tears form, but she held them back. I was young, Sheikh continued in Arabic. My father had just died. Powerful men wanted to take our business. No one would help us, except a Moroccan merchant in Detroit, who gave us credit when everyone else closed their doors. Samira Alfars. Layla remembered a story her grandmother used to tell about helping a family from the Gulf long ago. She never imagined it was this family. My grandmother never mentioned your name, Layla said in Arabic. She used to say that helping others wasn't something to remember, but something to keep in your heart. Sheikh laughed softly. She used exactly those words. Marceline touched Layla's arm. What is happening? She whispered. Layla could not respond. Tears ran freely down her face now. Sheikh spoke again. Layla, granddaughter of Samira, are you working for this company? Layla looked down at her red delivery uniform and at the pizza bag lying in the corner. She shook her head. No, sir. I was just delivering pizza. There was a moment of silence. Then Sheikh did something no one expected. He laughed. It was a big, deep, genuine laugh. The granddaughter of Samira Alfars delivering pizza in New York, he said, smiling. The world is sometimes cruel to the wrong people. Marceline made frantic signals for Layla to translate. Sheikh then spoke in English, though with a heavy accent. I understand more than I appear to. I know what is happening. Marceline's eyes widened in surprise. Sheikh continued. I will sign your contract, but I have one condition. Layla Safar will be responsible for all communication between our companies. She will be our bridge. If she is not part of the deal, there is no deal. The silence in the room was deafening. Marceline looked at Layla, the young dark-skinned black woman with long braids, still wearing her red uniform. Layla could not believe what she was hearing. Sheikh, Marceline said carefully, Layla is not an employee of our company. Then hire her, Sheikh said simply. Or find another company for your business in Dubai. One of the executives, the same one who had called Layla a pizza girl before, choked on his own coffee. Marceline took a deep breath. Layla, she said, looking directly at her, would you accept working with us? Layla felt the weight of years of invisible struggle. All those nights studying while working 2 jobs, all the resumes that were ignored, the doors slammed in her face. And now, one of the largest consulting firms in the country was asking her to work with them because of a call she almost didn't answer, and because of a grandmother she thought she had lost forever. "Yes," Layla said, her voice trembling. "I accept." From the other end of the line, Sheikh Farid Al-Mahdi spoke in Arabic one last time. "Samira would be proud of you, Habibi." Layla smiled through her tears. "I know she is." The call ended at 4:47 p.m. Layla stayed standing, still holding the phone. Around her, the executives looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Marceline Draycott was the first to move. "Everyone out," she said firmly. "I need 5 minutes with Layla. Alone." The room emptied in seconds. The executive who had insulted her earlier passed by without raising his eyes. Marceline pulled up a chair and sat in front of Layla. "Do you realize what just happened?" Layla shook her head slowly. "I'm still processing it," she said softly. Marceline crossed her hands over her knees. "For 8 months, my team worked on this contract. The best lawyers, the best negotiators, consultants from Dubai who charged a fortune. And in 40 minutes, you did what none of them could." Layla didn't know what to say. "It wasn't just your Arabic," Marceline continued. "It was the way you spoke, the way you understood the culture, the way you made him trust you." Layla thought of her grandmother, of the endless afternoons in the kitchen practicing pronunciation while Samira prepared dinner, of stories about merchants from Morocco, about honor, and the importance of keeping one's word. "My grandmother used to say that language isn't just vocabulary," Layla said finally. "It's soul. When you speak someone's language, you are not just communicating. You are showing respect." Marceline nodded slowly. "Your grandmother was a wise woman. The wisest woman I ever knew." Marceline stood and walked to the window. The afternoon sun painted New York golden. "When you sent resumes to translation companies, was mine one of them?" Layla hesitated. "Yes. 3 times in the last 2 years, she admitted. Marceline closed her eyes for a moment. "And we never called you for an interview." "Never." The silence between them felt heavy, almost like lead. "You know what's most ironic?" Marceline said, turning to face her. "We have an entire department dedicated to finding diverse talent. We spend millions on inclusion programs. And the most qualified person I've ever seen for this role was delivering pizza in my building." Layla felt a pang in her chest, not anger, but a complicated mix of validation and sadness. "I don't want a job out of pity or out of guilt," she said firmly. Marceline smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Layla, you just saved a $100 million contract. Sheikh personally demanded that you be part of the deal." "That's not a pity," Marceline said. "That's merit." 1 week later, Layla entered the same building where she had delivered pizzas. But this time, she wasn't wearing the red uniform. She wore a navy blue blazer she had bought with her last delivery paycheck. Her long braids were pulled back in an elegant bun. Her badge read, Layla Safar, Director of International Communications. The security guard who barely noticed her before now greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Miss Safar." "Good morning, Keanu," Layla said with a smile. In the elevator, she thought about calling her mother but decided to wait. She wanted to tell her in person. She wanted to see her face when she found out. She wanted her mother to understand that all the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, and the years of struggle had been worth it. 3 months later, Layla flew to Dubai for the first time. Sheikh Farid Al-Mahdi personally received her in his office. On his desk was an old black and white photograph. Layla recognized it immediately. It was her grandmother, Samira, young and smiling, standing in front of a small store in Detroit. "She gave me this photo in 1985, Sheikh said. "The day she gave me credit when everyone else refused. I was a scared boy trying to save my dead father's business. She barely knew me. And yet, she trusted me." Layla felt tears welling in her eyes. "She never told me the full story because your grandmother didn't help people to be remembered. She helped because that is who she was," Sheikh continued. Layla gently touched the photo. "I wish she could see this. To see where I am now." Sheikh smiled. "Habibi, she can see. I am certain of it." 1 year later, Layla created a scholarship program for young people from marginalized communities who wanted to study languages and international business. She called it the Samira Foundation. At the inauguration ceremony, her mother cried. Marceline Draycott gave a speech. Sheikh Farid Al-Mahdi sent a video message from Dubai. But the most important moment came afterward when Layla stood alone on stage. She looked at the audience full of young people, many black and brown, many from families like hers. My grandmother taught me that language is a bridge, Layla said into the microphone. But she also taught me something more important, that a person's value isn't in the diploma they have or the uniform they wear. She paused. A year ago, I was invisible. I delivered pizza in buildings where people like me only entered through the service door. And then one day, I had the chance to show who I really was. She looked at her hands, the same hands that carried pizza boxes that now signed international contracts. Many of you are where I was, fighting to be seen, fighting to prove you deserve a chance, she continued. I'm here to tell you that you do deserve it. Sometimes the bridge that will change your life is built with something you already have inside you. She took a deep breath. My grandmother Samira planted a seed in me when I was a child. A seed made of words, stories, and love. She didn't live to see that seed bloom. But I know that somehow she's here. Because what the people who love us teach us never dies. It lives in every word we speak, in every bridge we build, in every door we open for those who come after us. The audience gave a standing ovation. And somewhere, Layla was certain her grandmother Samira was smiling.